Congressman, great to have you on with us here, sir.
Good, Alex. Good to be with you again.
Good to have you here. Gallup poll shows that now a majority of Americans would abolish the Federal Reserve if they could, according to CNBC. Can you comment on this exciting development, Congressman?
Well, I think it's rather amazing. You know, a year or two ago, I imagine very few people even thought about the Federal Reserve. But I think because of the economic crisis, because of the blundering with TARP funds where the American people said, we need to know what you guys are doing and how you're wasting the money, we saw an opening that we could call attention to the American people about what kind of shenanigans have been going on in the Federal Reserve. And that, along with the presidential campaign, all of a sudden the Federal Reserve now has become a key issue, which is something you and I have been arguing for a good many years. And, of course, it was the issue that prompted me to go into politics. And lo and behold, now it's front and center in the debate. And there's a lot more yet to come. We need to know what they're doing. That's why our audit bill is so important. But eventually, though, we need a sound monetary system. And I think if we continue with our progress, hopefully we'll reach that point someday.
Congressman, you said back during the campaign in 2008, something big is happening. And I even tend to underestimate. I've been telling you for years that I think we're starting to win, and you've been optimistic but also somewhat conservative, saying, well, let's just keep working. But do you revise your forecast? I mean, that the something big you talked about is even bigger than we had even hoped and happening quicker? I mean, I think this is something bordering on 1776 or what happened to Ceausescu in Romania. I think it's more explosive than even you or I may have thought previously.
Yeah, and I don't pretend to know exactly what will happen and when, but, you know, when you distort things grossly, so like we have for 35 years, you know it has to give, and at that time it wasn't clear-cut exactly what would happen, so the financial crisis hit, the house of cards has come down, and that is really pretty big is what's going on. But no, I think it's even bigger than that in both the negative and the positive side, because I think we're working now on the dollar crisis. And a dollar crisis will be 10 times, it will be a 10 times bigger event than the financial collapse. And then, the big deal will be, which way are we going to go? Are we going to say as Americans that, we had a taste of freedom, we want our freedom back, and we want constitutional law, and we want sound money? Or are we going to be complacent? And the majority of people say, yes, let the government do whatever they want. They'll take care of us. We trust the government. So we're in the midst of that, and I'm hoping, like you are, that we can win this fight and people opt for more freedom rather than more dependency. But we're a little bit off from that because right now in Washington, everybody's, still pushing more government. I mean, just look at what Obama's doing with more war, more spending, more borrowing, more socialized medicine, more cap and trade, more taxes. But at home, when I go home or around the country or talk on radio shows, I find out that there's literally not tens of thousands, but literally millions of people who understand exactly what's going on, and they've had enough. And I think this spontaneity with some of these tea parties show that there's a lot of people very upset with what's happening.
Well, yes, sir. We've gone in the last year from the media laughing at anti-Federal Reserve movement and the anti-globalist movement to now openly on the news every night. They're saying they're scared. The establishment is openly up there on their parapets, the controlled left-right paradigm, admitting that this movement is like a bushfire set in the minds of men. As Thomas Jefferson said, I mentioned the poll, the scientific poll. There's Gallups and others showing that below 50% for the Federal Reserve now and growing. Obama and his approval rating now the lowest of any modern president at this point 6 months in to office. It just looks like government on every front is in free fall unless you're pro-liberty, libertarian like yourself, and your numbers are just going off the chart. Infowars.com numbers. My radio show is being picked up by more and more stations. This show is exploding. Every other indicator is liberty is rising. Tyranny is still juggernauting forward, but losing momentum as they drive through their agenda. Can you comment on this?
I think one of the best symbols of what you're talking about is the fact that the Fed feels so much on the defense, they send the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board out to hold town hall meetings. That is hilarious. But that also shows that they're on the defensive and we're on the offensive, but we have truth on our side. I mean, the absurdity that they can control us forever by just printing money and claiming that they will always have wealth by printing money is so absurd that the people realize this. So I think since we have honest money and truth and limited government and freedom on our side, if we don't win, there's something awfully wrong with us. And yet I think that obviously we're making great progress.
Well, I think knowing we can win and historically having some victories, that is always what leads to the victory. Having right on your side, having history, common sense, free market, and then having victories and seeing that we can actually go up against these people. It's very exciting. I mean, the fight is just now starting. I'm not saying it's easy, but I think the momentum's starting to shift. Sir, you've talked a lot previously about stage crises, Gulf of Tonkin type events. They're now green lighting. Biden and others saying, yeah, we will support Israel. They have a right to hit Iran. Economic crises, economic terrorism, paying banks not to lend, as Kucinich has been covering, your fellow congressman. What tricks do they have up their sleeves, or are you concerned about stage crises?
Yeah, I'm concerned, but I don't have any insight to what they plan or what they will do. And it may be an accident that they will play on or blow up or react to. So it doesn't necessarily have to be absolutely contrived. They may have, an accidental confrontation, or sometimes they'll just go out and something gets blown up, and this will incite the people. But I don't have any immediate insights, but I'm always on the alert and vigilant because we're so vulnerable, we're so much involved around the world. All kinds of things could break loose, and overnight the political and the economic environment could change rather quickly.
Well, it's like Rahm Emanuel said to the Wall Street Journal. He said, we don't want to let a good crisis go to waste, so created or opportunistically used. What about the economic terrorism? Back in October, they said, give us unlimited power in the banking or there's going to be a depression, and the stock market plunged 777 points. Is that not economic terrorism?
Yeah, it is. And if it doesn't have enough fear and put enough fear in the heart of the people, they'll create the fear because people succumb and they give up their liberties when they're very fearful. So that's what we have to convince the people that they should not be doing, is sacrificing their liberties for their security.
Congressman, I know you have a vote coming up any minute. We're back in 70 seconds. Let me speak to you during the break.
Okay.